Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense. It is the pro wrestling podcast, the only pro wrestling podcast, as much as we are aware, where we talk about pro wrestling and whether or not it makes sense. And this week we have a very unfortunate topic that we want to talk about because Daffney, well-known women's wrestler Daffney from WCW and from TNA, unfortunately passed away last week. It would have been. It was very sad. Very
Yeah,
sad situation. I think now we don't know all of the details, which is probably for the best because we don't want to pry into a situation like that. But it did seem like there may have been like a mental health issue involved. Daphne might have it seemed like she was in a bad way.
yeah. I
And
think, well, it sounds like she was still struggling with a lot of the fallout of her CTE, like concussion-related sort of illness, I guess, from her time in TNA, where she ended up, having a lot of concussions in a pretty quick period of time, which obviously took its toll and had a really lasting effect, and effectively like ended her in-ring career as well.
wasn't that an issue in TNA where they kind of, I don't know if forced is the right word, but they got her to do a spot that she wasn't super okay with, and she got hurt from that?
Yeah, I think the initial concussion came from a spot in a Monsters Ball match between Abyss and Mick Foley, where she was interfering in the match and ended up taking a big choke slam off the apron through like a barbed wire covered table, I think it
What?
was.
Good
Yeah,
God.
and that was really where it all started. And then she sort of started feuding with some other people, I think, like Taylor Wilde and Tara, who was Victoria, but put in like lots of sort of hardcore style matches like Monsters Ball and First Blood matches and stuff where she was getting really badly beaten up and like hit with toolboxes and all sorts. And yeah, and so it really escalated quite quickly. And then it got worse when she was doing like a dark match with a new signing with TNA at the time called Rosie Lotolove, who
Oh
was
yeah.
kind of a big girl at the time. And yeah, she like sat down on Daphne's chest and basically really fucked her up. Gave her like a bruised sternum and like a really bad stinger and concussion and everything. So it was not a good time for Daphne.
No, that's the old Mabel special.
Yeah.
That's the one that Kevin Nash was incredibly angry at Mabel for. Not that Nash isn't angry at people for lots of things, but he was like, that shit's dangerous. Don't do it."
Mm.
And man wasn't that far off the mark. He knows what he's talking about. When was that Monsters Ball match where she got the concussion? Like roughly, like what kind of time? It's mid 2000s, I imagine.
Mid 2009, I think it was.
Wow, because what I was going to talk about was in relation to the Chris Benoit thing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
after the whole Benoit tragedy, a lot more information started to come out about concussions and the effect that can have on a person long term.
Mm.
And after that, the WWE started to really crack down on things like chair shots
Yeah.
and hardcore matches and things like that. They were a lot safer, and people unfortunately really started to. That's when they were like, "Oh, it's a PG era. You can't do this. You can't do that." And I think you and me were both quite happy that the chair shots went away because
Mm.
looking back on it, that stuff is really, it's really not cool. Really,
Yeah.
Mick Foley getting hit in the head 16 times with a chair, a great visual, but I guarantee you talk to him, he doesn't ever want that to happen to him or to happen to anybody. because that was a bad time, right?
Yeah, it's just super uncomfortable to watch those kind of things now as well. Like I struggle to go back and watch like that match with The Rock and see him get hit over the head and
I
unable
can't
to
do it.
protect himself. Yeah,
I
it's
can't.
scary.
That's what's worse. He's unprotected shots right to the head. Like you can't watch that.
Mm,
It's bad news. And we've seen other people have Quiz Nowinski did a very good job of trying to document this and try to do a lot more research into it, which is very commendable.
mm.
And because I think he had to retire because of like concussion stuff as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So he knows what he's talking about. He's really doing a really good job of looking into this kind of thing. And it's a damn shame to see TNA in like 2009, not that long after the Chris Benoit thing, and not that long after research has started to be put into concussions and the long-term effects they can have on somebody. To make Daffney do something like that is a bit. I mean, with all the wrestlers, they take risks.
Hmm.
You never know what's going to happen. Every time they step in the ring, they take a risk. That's why they say don't try this at home.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
never know. But it does seem a little uncool of them to put her into that kind of situation. But at the same time, she was a scrappy kid.
Hmm.
Daphne was a team player, and she seemed like such a lovely person.
Yeah, 100%. Like
So
it's funny as well that she never really like started off as wanting to be a wrestler or anything. She was basically an aspiring actor. And she I think WCW were looking for someone to come in and play like David Flair's sort of mentally deranged girlfriend for like a month or so. But Daphne, after winning the part, basically won everyone over, not just like the people in the back, but like, the fans as well, and ended up becoming like this big part of the David Flair Crowbar act and like a big, like a popular part of the act as well.
I mean, you
And
could you could say the best part of the act.
oh, yeah, I mean, I'd definitely go that far, but yeah, and that sort of sparked her love with wrestling and kind of made her want to do more and learn how to wrestle as well. And um, in a way, it's almost sad that she got that opportunity and then fell in love with wrestling, and then that love kind of turned around and bit her on the ass, I guess, because it's just like if she hadn't have gone back to wrestling and continued with it and ended up in TNA, she wouldn't have suffered those concussions, which obviously had such a damaging effect on her, and maybe she'd still be with us. But it's this kind of the sad story about wrestling, I guess, is we've heard this sort of thing a lot over the years, and a lot of how wrestling can be pretty bad for the people involved with it, but they have that passion and they want to go out there and put on a show and entertain people, and that's what kind of drives them to keep doing it.
Yeah, it's very strange how the love for professional wrestling and the love for going out there every night and seeing the crowd and feeding off the crowd kind of makes people do crazy things.
Hmm.
Like the chair shots are Mick Foley falling off the cell twice.
Yeah.
And like they're doing that for the people and they're not thinking about their own long-term health. And
Mm.
you're going to see a lot of that where people are well, we've talked briefly about those death matches, which I am, opposed to
Hmm.
because there's no skill involved, but also they're taking unnecessary risks in a business that's already kind of risky.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they're really going out of their way to cut themselves up and hurt themselves in ways that they don't need to do because the business is already tricky. And also when we've got people talking about concussions and the effects of getting hit on the head with stuff and all of this, for deathmatch wrestling to just turn around and not only ignore all of that but like go the other direction and just be as extreme as possible really makes all that other research seem irrelevant. It puts it back a step, which I think is the bad news, because that's the stuff we need to focus on. People have been dropped on their heads all the time, and it does take an effect on your body. Even in stuff like Hulk Hogan doing the leg drop for so many years has said, I wish I hadn't used the leg drop as my finisher because now my hips are fucked.
Yeah.
And that's something you wouldn't even think of.
Mm.
So imagine what it's like getting hit in the head every day.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's going to be way worse, and it's going to have a real effect on people. And again, to go back to Daffney, I think that one of the things people don't think about is like the long-term after effects. So like we said, Daffney hadn't been working for TNA for 10 years,
Yeah.
ish. And the long-term effects are still there, and she was clearly still feeling that influence, and that's not fair for Daffney to have such long-term effects from her job and to not be compensated for that from the job. You know what I mean? Like, they expected her to go out and do all of this stuff, and later on she got sick. We don't know what the problem with the concussions were, but it was obviously enough to constantly cause her some kind of discomfort. And I would imagine that plays a role in your mental health as well. If you physically feel bad all the time, mentally you're not going to feel good either. And people, they don't think about that kind of side. And then stuff like this happens. Stuff like this that should have been totally avoidable, because everybody loved Daphne. It's been so heartwarming to see so many of her peers from so long ago, from WCW and then from TNA, and then even on the independents, and people that she's just talked to and give advice to, and just been a lovely person to for so many years. It's been lovely to see all of these people coming out and talking about how much of a positive person she was, and it's such a shame that the business that she loved would treat her so badly. You know what I mean? And I think that hopefully now we can maybe talk a little bit more seriously about concussions and mental health when it comes to pro wrestling, and that it does seem quite addictive. People love it, but they also have to remember that there are long-term health risks that go along with this stuff. And maybe we should be a little bit smarter about the wrestling that we do. Like we had said a moment ago, the WWE tried to cut down on headshots and hardcore matches and things like that, and for good reason. Not only because they're a publicly traded company that have millions of eyes on them, but also for the health of their own wrestlers. If the people they employ get too sick to work, they're going to be in trouble. And that's physically and mentally. They need to look after the people that work for them. And
I think it's to their credit as well that they offer mental health counseling as well. So it's not just the physical side of it, but WWE are, making inroads into looking after the mental health of their wrestlers as well, which is, just as important really, because sometimes you don't know what's going on with people behind closed doors. You don't know, what they're feeling, or if they're sad and depressed and feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders. And at least if they've got that option there to have someone to talk to and try and work through those problems, then that's something. That's a step in the right direction. And you kind of got to take your hat off and say, yes, that's the sort of stuff that probably they should have been doing years and years ago. But the fact that they're doing it now is like something that should be, praised, I think.
Yes, and again, I feel like, it's unfortunate that it's reactionary that they had to take steps after the fact, but it is kind of like the way that they responded to the Chris Benoit thing, where they were like, well, this is serious and we need to pay more attention to this. And I believe that they've been, I don't think they've been doing this mental health course just after the Daffney thing. I think this has happened before, because
Yeah.
I know that other people in that company have I think Bray Wyatt has talked before about his mental health issues, and being helped through that. And I'm sure he's taken time off for that, and you had the company behind him to help him through that, you know. So I imagine there are people there that have been asking for help and have got the help, you know. Like, that's the thing about the WWE, you know, they are a monstrous fucking corporation, right? But at the same time, they have resources behind them to help people like this. You know, they can send people to rehab, and they can give people, they can help people with their mental health issues or their physical health, and stuff like this, you know.
Yeah.
Which is very important. It's stuff that, yeah, maybe they don't get enough credit for. You know, I mean, to be fair, the reason they don't get a lot of credit is because most of the time they put on a woeful TV show. But like we said, their employees, if they don't have any employees, they won't be able to put on a show. So it is commendable for them to be trying to change, because mental health is a big, even now it's gotten better, but it's still, there's still a stigma behind it. It's still not as widely accepted and talked about or understood. You know, like we said, a lot of this mental health stuff might have a lot to do with Daphne's physical health as well. We don't know. There's so much to it that we're not privy to, and the WWE at least have the resources to go out and get the best kind of help for their employees. You know.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of thing that, well, like, you know, like we said, Daffney was in TNA. They might not have had the resources to help her through her recovery, mentally and physically. They just might not have had the resources to do it. And that's also interesting, given that the WWE are clearly the biggest game in town, but there are an awful lot of other places to work, and people could get hurt there. You know, are they going to be okay after that? There's no healthcare in pro wrestling at all, and if you get hurt in an indie show, that can hurt you physically and also mentally. And how are you going to get help for that? You know, that's stuff that also needs to be addressed, and I don't know if there's a proper answer for that. I don't think there is at the moment.
No, I don't think so. As like you say, there's only so much that these like smaller companies can do, I guess. Like, if they don't have the you know, sort of facilities to kind of give their wrestlers that support, then what can they do? But
Yeah.
it's something that I think, it's like you say, like mental health has that stigma where people don't really want to acknowledge it, or they want to sort of underplay it, I guess. But it's important that if you do have you are feeling like, you know, the weight of the world on your shoulders, then you need to kind of reach out and touch base with people, and you know, try and talk it out. So that's why it's been encouraging to see like all the suicide hotline numbers and Samaritans and everything being shared, where there are those avenues where even if like the company you work for can't provide them, they're still out there and there to be taken as well.
Yes. While the company that you work for might not have the resources to help you out with that kind of thing, those resources are available for other people, not just for wrestlers. It's out there. And this goes for anybody listening here. If you're a wrestling fan as well, if you've suffered from mental health, those same resources are available. You can call the Smartens just to talk. That's what I think is another thing that people don't get, is like, you can just phone them and talk to them. If you just need somebody to talk to, they'll listen. That's what they're there for. And I think that that's a big thing too. Like feeling that you're not being listened to, or feeling that you don't have anything to contribute or something like that. Like you totally do. You can talk to people. They're right there, and it's a really good resource that you should take advantage of if you need it. you know. And yeah, this goes out to wrestlers as well. Not that I imagine a whole lot of wrestlers are listening to our show. Even though we're the only podcast in town, I imagine they're probably too busy, actually wrestling.
That's fair enough. We'll let them off.
Yeah, that's fine. But if you do, if you just happen to hear about this, we would recommend, there's no harm in just talking to people. It helps. It really does, especially over the last year. Good Lord.
Yeah.
We all know that we've all had everybody's in the same boat. We've all had a tough time. It's hard to go out and talk to people and to see your friends. And it is taxing mentally on everybody. Everybody's had a hard time. And especially with the pandemic, because it's a virus and it makes people feel sick. Like we said, the physical ailments can lead to feeling sick mentally, which it's a real terrible double whammy, but again, if you just need to talk to people are out there and they'll listen. And what we'll do in the description for this, probably, and in the Twitter links, we'll put some links to places that if you need to talk to, there'll be people out there that'll listen, like the Samaritans and some of those other. We'll find a bunch of hotlines, I think, and we'll try to find not just like hotlines, but other resources as well. Because some people, again, because it sounds like such an easy thing to say, just talk to somebody. People aren't ready for that. Some people aren't ready to talk about that kind of thing. So we'll try to link some phone numbers, but also some like other like reading materials and things like that that hopefully will help, because this sucks. It really does. And we saw this last year with that girl. What was her name? Hannah
Kimura, yeah.
Where she unfortunately passed away as well because, of I think it was, it was publicized as like a bullying on social media, but that stuff adds up. It's that's just one part of it, and it doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help if you're being bullied on social media, and people really need to fucking grow up and stop being such assholes on social media as well. Not us included, because we're saints.
Yeah.
But like, there's no need to be tweeting abuse to a wrestler like that.
No, geez, like the amount of abuse that like Charlotte Flair gets on a daily basis. Yes. It's like, why would you send that stuff? Yeah.
There's no need for that shit, and that goes for a lot. That's the thing. We had hoped that since last year, people had learned more about mental health and about how tough this stuff gets when you have to live in your own head and listen to your own thoughts, and you spend your day being bombarded with things like that. It's tough, but I don't know if people have changed their tune. I hope they have, and I hope that. I mean, again, it's a shame that stuff like this has to be reactionary, and that we only learn to be better from the unfortunate tragedies like this. But it's even worse if nobody learns any lessons. Like, that's even worse. If people come out and say, "Oh yeah, we should respect people's mental health," and then 2 weeks later they're on Twitter, like sending horrible tweets to wrestlers. Like, you don't need to do it. If you don't like a wrestler, that's fine, right? You don't have to specifically go out and say, "Hey, I don't like you and I think you're terrible." You don't have to target people like that. That's another thing. Like, you don't have to. That's what I think is weird about Twitter, where like you can complain about stuff on Twitter all you want. It's your Twitter page. You can do that, but you don't have to specifically tag the person that you don't have an issue, or you have an issue with. You don't have to like get them involved. You don't have to specifically tell them that you hate them. That's ridiculous. I've only done that once, and I've done it to Fred Durst, and I feel like that was entirely justified. But that was many years ago, and I've learned my lesson then. Because now I'm like, dude, fair play, Fred Durst. I don't like you, but just do whatever you want to do. Yeah. That's it. Just do whatever you want to do. My opinion shouldn't make a difference to Fred Durst's life.
I'm sure it doesn't.
No, God, I'm pretty sure he's forgot about it.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that I don't even think he noticed, to be honest with you. But we can all be better, really, and we don't know what's going on in somebody else's head. And but Daphne, we don't know. Clearly she's had to suffer through this stuff for a long time, mentally and physically, which is a damn shame. And people deserve better than that. They deserve some respect. So I feel like, I really want this to be the one where we all wise up and we're all a little bit smarter and we're all just more open to talking about stuff. That's the thing. I feel like we don't talk anymore. And I don't mean you and me, because we talk all the time.
Yeah.
But we do a podcast, for God's sake. But I mean, like, as a society, we don't talk anymore. We just shout. And that was a big problem with like Donald Trump and Boris Johnson coming in, is that politics made it cool to be a bully.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that, because they didn't, they just shouted at people and until they got their way. And if they didn't get their way, they just bitch about the people that didn't let them have their obnoxious way. Right. And I don't like that attitude, because it just it gave people an excuse to be an asshole. And we saw that this year when they fucking stormed the Capitol of America, which shouldn't have happened. But it did, because a lot of entitled people started to think that they were entitled to act that way and to be brutish and asshole-ish. Asshole-ish? I don't know if that's... I'm sticking with it. Write it in the dictionary. I think it feels like every week I come up with a new word.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do like a dictionary from me and my words. But I don't know. It feels like it's instead of like us being able to, and again, when I say us, I mean the wider world, the Western world especially. But it feels like, and we're instead of like popularizing the fact that we can talk to each other and we can disagree without hating each other, and we can talk civilly. That has been seen as a sign of weakness, and being a brash, obnoxious asshole is seen as a better way of life. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly, as I imagine you would as well.
Absolutely, yes.
I feel like we just need to be kinder. That's the thing. Like, we're not kind enough to each other. We're just always shouting. And we need to really, just let people be.
Yeah. Well, let them be, but be supportive of each other as well. And that's, it's something that it's easy to take for granted. And, it's easy to kind of fall out of the habit of reaching out and checking in with friends and family and whatnot. And sometimes it's important to just reach out and remind people that they aren't alone. And it's easy to do as well. It's just you picking up a phone or sending a text or whatever. So it doesn't take much to do.
No, it really doesn't, especially now that we're all on social media, and we can, if you wanted to, you could use Twitter for actually being nice to people.
That sounds like a pretty crazy idea.
Doesn't it? Well, you and me, we are radicals of the highest order. We are always coming up with crazy schemes and things like this. I mean, you've heard some of our radical ideas for changing the pro wrestling business for the better. Why don't they put on good matches? Whoa, slow down here, guys. We're going to be on the outside of society when it comes to our crazy ideals. But yes, on Twitter, you can just talk to somebody and say, hey, man, what's up? You don't have to use Twitter as a beacon of hate. Like, especially now that we're in the days of social media, where accessing people is easier than ever. Easier than ever to reach out and talk to people, your friends or your family or people you like. It's never been easier. And yet we're still having, difficulties with reaching out and being able to be so frank with each other. But again, like you said, it's all it takes is just saying, hey, what's up, man? How are you doing? You still good? Just to make people. And that's the thing. Like we said, it was heartwarming to see how many people came out and talked about how great Daffney was. And you wonder if, like, did she know just how much people loved her, because people loved her. It was so sweet to see some of the things people were saying about Daphne and how she had helped them, people you wouldn't
Mm.
even expect, you know.
Yeah.
But
Clearly, she touched a lot of people's lives and careers as well. Like, she helped out so many people, and sometimes you kind of don't really realize how much of an effect a person has had on other people until something tragic like this happens.
yes, exactly. Like till like a lot of those people, not to say that they took Daphne for granted, but like once they look back at their life, they're like, wow, she had a really big impact in my
Mm.
life, and she really helped me. And that can happen with anybody. You know, you'd be surprised the kind of people who have had a big impact on your life if you sit back and look at it. And then I think if you do that, if you do a little bit of self-reflection and look at your life and the people you've been blessed to meet and to talk to, you realize that, you know, they've really made a difference, and that you should let them know. You should be like, hey man, thanks for hanging out, you know, thanks just for doing stuff like that, you know. It doesn't take much to just say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a sad situation. Hopefully, we can all kind of learn from this and be better. That's it. Like you just one day at a time. We all just gotta be better people. You know, we just gotta learn how to be a bit better
Yep.
as a society and try to get along. I know it's hard to try and get, because it's much easier to be negative than to be positive. Lord knows that we know this. Every week I'm out there being negative about something, but it's nice to be positive too. You know,
Yeah.
there's good stuff out there in life, and it's there to be accessed and noticed. And if anybody listening to this is suffering from mental health, man, life ain't that bad. You know, there's some good stuff out there, and I hope you find it. DuckTales, for example, it's a great show. You know, I don't know why I went to DuckTales. I think about DuckTales a lot. That's probably what it is. You know, the original. I don't really like the new one.
I can't say I've seen the new one, but
It's
the old one was a classic.
oh, is it fucking great? But like that's the thing. Like music. You know, you and me both are big music fans. I mean,
Hmm.
we share the same kind of taste in music. But that
Yep.
shit makes me happy.
Yeah.
If I'm ever in a bad mood or on a depressed mood or just a shitty mood or whatever, if I put on some music that I love, I'm like, boy, that takes me. It really does. Like it puts me in a better mood, and I think, you know what, it's not too bad because I can go on Spotify and listen to Pearl Jam whenever I want.
Mm.
You know, it's the little things like that. I think if you can figure them out, they make life a little bit more bearable. But that's it, man. You just gotta, you know, discuss that kind of stuff. You know, like talk to your friends about music or
Mm.
stuff you like. There's no harm in talking about the stuff you like, because you
Yeah.
like it. You like it for a reason, and you know that's worth talking about more than the stuff you don't like.
Hmm.
That's what I think. So we're probably gonna wrap things up pretty soon. I actually remember watching Daphne years ago. Like I've told this story where the only way I was able to watch wrestling was Sunday Night Heat.
Hmm.
That was free on Channel 4. At some point in the year 2000, Channel 5 would show Thunder,
Yeah.
WCW Thunder. Very irregularly, as I recall. I only saw like 2 episodes. And the
Very
only
heavily edited as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, have you seen this thing? Bryce told me about this, and I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" But he was telling me about how they would sometimes put like Batman
Yeah, like
effects in it.
boink. Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember this?
Yeah, vaguely, yeah.
I was like, "What the?" I couldn't believe him, and then he showed me a video. I'm like, "Well, hot damn, you know, there it is." I couldn't believe that, but I remember Crowbar and Daphne.
Mm.
I remember seeing them. That's the only thing I remember from watching WCW, which, you know, says a lot about WCW. But I remember them as a twosome,
Yeah.
you know, and that was really cool because you didn't really see like again, like, you know, the women in the year 2000 weren't really they were doing their best they could.
Mm.
And they had to fight for TV time. But it was really nice to see Leo, Daphne, because I got that character. You know, they were both crazy. That was the kind of character I dug on TV, and they both did it really well. Daphne was really good at her character, really, really good. She got it, you know, and I kind of want to go back and watch some more of her stuff on the network. I mean, the problem is a lot of that has Stephen Flair in it too. And I'm sorry if that sounds negative after I've just talked about positivity, but you know, if you've ever seen David Flair in WCW, you'll know that he didn't pick it up right away. Daphne picked it up much quicker, and she was a saint. Like it's worth watching just to see how good Daphne was at that stage in her career, right?
I think that's my lasting image of Daphne as well, is her in WCW. She always had like the biggest grin on her face, and like she, carried herself as the character Daphne, like, perfectly. From the way she looked and the way she, would scream so much, and doing like the crazy little skits and stuff that they do. She was a breath of fresh air, really. There was no other woman in the business at that time anything like Daphne. And you can see like how it would like influence other wrestlers over the years as well. So she was someone who did kind of, I can't think of what the term is.
Well, she was like a trailblazer.
Trailblazer.
She was a real like one of a kind. You know, she set the scene. People, like you said, you can see her influence on other wrestlers that came after her. You can see that people definitely did like not copy her, but took influence from what she did, because she not only was like one of the first to do it, but she did it well. She knew what she was doing, and she did it really, really well. And you can't take that away from her. She was memorable. She was a hell of a character. In a time whenever the women didn't get a whole lot of time on TV, she was able, especially in WCW, where it was a royal shit show. Like that, none of that shit made any sense. But she was a bright spot in that, and she always, like you said, you always believed in her character. Yeah. She always went out there and made you think that that's what she was like. That's her, that she was that character, which means she did her job. She really was like the perfect actress, and that she got people to buy into her character, which is what you want,
Indeed. And my favorite Daphne fact as well.
Oh, shoot. What is it?
Have you ever seen the movie Santa Claus, the movie?
Santa Claus, the movie? I think so.
Yeah.
Who's in that?
That's Dudley Moore and John Lithgow.
I was like, do you mean the fucking Tim Allen one? But that's that's something else.
Apparently, 10-year-old Daphne was in the movie as one of the like kids in the ballet class attended by like the the little girl who was sort of one of the leads in it, and she's one of like the little bullying kids, like making fun of her.
Aw, I mean that's that's part of the film.
Yeah. It's not real life, but
no, it's okay to make fun of somebody if it's written into the script.
Yes.
But like I didn't know that fact. There you go. We got Daphne facts.
Hell yeah.
What other show on the internet has Daphne facts? I would wager none. There you go. That's pretty cool. I like. Hey, next week let's try to find out some more. Was she like the first woman to win a male title in WCW?
No.
Oh, that would have been. Was that Medusa?
Yeah.
All right. Well, she was the second.
Yes.
Or did Jacqueline win a belt? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think it's just Medusa.
Okay. Well, didn't Daphne win the hardcore title or the cruiserweight title or something?
The cruiserweight title, yeah. I think she won it in a match where it was her and Crowbar against Chris Candido and Sonny. And,
my God.
Yeah. I think she pinned Sonny to win it.
I mean, I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see that match. I'm also not that, you know what I mean? Like, Uh-oh, that sounds like real WCW right there, but it's worth checking out, you know.
I think we've watched as well. She had Miss Elizabeth's first match as well.
Was that on the... Did we watch that?
I think we did.
Was that on the episode of Thunder?
I'm pretty sure it was on that episode of Thunder, but I may be mistaken.
I mean,
It wasn't much of a match either way, to be fair.
there was a lot going on in that episode of Thunder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to keep track. I mean, even now, I wake up in cold sweats going, did that really happen? Was there really a lion head in the backstage for no reason? You know, constantly it confuses me. That would have been around the time, because, you know, that Candido was on that show, so probably would have been around that kind of time. But hey, man, everybody who's got the network out there, this is the perfect time to go and look up some of that old WCW. Please, only watch the Daffney stuff. We're begging you. For your own mental health, don't watch a whole episode of WCW Thunder. It's a bit much. But, like, check out some of the Daffney stuff and see what kind of a real trailblazer she was back in the year 2000. Like we said, people weren't doing that shit on national television. And she was really good at it. You know, she had a really good look. She was very unique. Everything about her was cool. You know,
Yeah.
and so it's a real shame that this had to happen. But, you know, Daphne was one of those characters that nobody will ever forget. Once you see Daphne, once you see her doing her thing, you'll never forget her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's a testimony to just how good she was. That nobody will ever forget her.
Yeah.
Especially all those people who talked about how Daphne had improved their life, you know. It's lovely to see. So yeah, we missed her already. She's a good kid, but we recommend go and check out some of the stuff. Her winning that cruiserweight title, check it out. Her with Crowbar, that stuff is all on the network, and it's worth watching. So that's our recommendation for you guys. And like we said, just, you know, don't be afraid to talk to people, or just to be at peace with oneself. That's, to me, one of the sadder things of living in the 21st century, is to see people who just aren't comfortable with being themselves. And hopefully we can, as a society, move to a point where we all can be okay with the people that we are, you know?
Yeah.
So we're going to leave some resources and links and stuff like this in the descriptions and on Twitter. And that's, I think, that's probably a good show. That's it, right?
I reckon so.
We're going to wrap things up here. Leave your favorite Daphne moments in the comments. We'd love to hear them. And, you know, like we said, man, don't be afraid to reach out and talk to people. It's very important. And that's it. So we're going to say thank you very much for listening, guys. We're going to be back at some point with another show. And I guess we'll just see you then. So take it easy, guys. Please stay safe. Don't forget to talk to people and love each other. Be nice to each other. I don't want this to be too sappy. I feel like I've ruined already. But thanks very much, guys, for listening. Take care. And we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.